Hello, New Covenant Parish. Good to be with you to think about another lectionary text from this week's offering. And this one comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verses 29 through 31. It's a short reading, but it's a very important reading to understand the thought of the Apostle Paul. So let's read it together. I'll read it to you right quick. Paul writes, I mean, brothers and sisters, the appointed time has grown short. From now on, let even those who have wives be as though they had none, and those who mourn as though they were not mourning, and those who rejoice as though they were not rejoicing, and those who buy as though they had no possessions, and those who deal with the world as though they had no dealings with it. For the present form of this world is passing away. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God for it. Now, to understand what he's saying here, we've got to think about other things he's addressing in this part of his letter. Now, Paul is answering a series of questions that the Corinthians posed to him in a letter we don't have, but it must have been sent to him from Corinth to Paul when he was in Ephesus. And when he writes, now concerning this, now concerning that, going through here, he's not pulling these concerns out of thin air. He's addressing questions that they've asked him, the Corinthians have asked him, concerning topics such as he addresses here: celibacy, marriage, circumcision, slavery, material possessions. And in his comments, we've got to remember that he's sharing with them a perspective on life in the world that is deeply influenced by what Paul believes God has done, is doing, and is about to do in the world through Jesus. And everything Paul says here is most of all influenced by Paul's belief that the end times are coming soon, like maybe in a couple of weeks, real close. As he says in the first words and the last words of our passage, the appointed time has grown short, and at the end, for the present form of this world is passing away. This idea connects well with another strand of thought we see in a lot of places in the Scriptures: the transience, the non-permanence of life and this world. You really find these thoughts expressed in the book of Ecclesiastes, that talks just honestly and soberly about human desires and plans and schemes as vanity, as a chasing after the wind. Those thoughts find a brief expression here in this reading. And this is sure not a popular theme in dominant American culture. I mean, news, popular in social media, constantly focus on what we have or what we want. The advertising industry drives home the message that our purpose in life is to want, to desire, to seek, to have. That old bumper sticker, I haven't seen it in a while, but I remember seeing it in the past, says, "Born to shop." That says it all. Our culture tends to preach that life does consist in the abundance of one's possessions, and also the abundance of our relationships. All the people who love us or like us on Facebook. Or maybe the good life has got to include the search to find that one person who will make our lives complete. All the dating sites testify to this. Chasing the good life also means striving to always be happier, more beautiful, more handsome, more confident, more successful, as measured by one's money or job or clothes or appearance or house or happiness and so on. But in stark contrast to that, think about what Paul is writing here. Paul is advising the married to be as if they had no spouse, mourners not to mourn, rejoicers not to rejoice, buyers to act as if they had no possessions, those who deal with the world as if they had no dealings with it. In this view, our relationships, our current emotional state, and status measured by the world's standards have little or nothing to do with the quality of our lives, the way Paul's putting it here. Because people, including those we most deeply love, will die, feelings will pass, and so will this world. Now, that all sounds mighty gloomy. But Paul is not trying to bring us down or encourage us to make a retreat from the world. I mean, Paul's telling us these things in the context of our life in Christ. Life that day by day goes on. And people need and ought to marry. They need and ought to earn a living. People are going to continue at times to rejoice, and they're going to continue at other times to grieve. But what what he's giving us here to think about is it's an ultimate reality check. I kind of take it more as a gut check, really. He's reminding us that our world, at every level we can think of, is not as substantial, it's not as dependable, it's not as unchanging as we'd like it to be. And in our more vulnerable moments, we know this. You know, like when we lie in bed at night, think about stuff. Think about the reality that someday all of this just goes away. And we'll never really appreciate and be blessed by the powerful words from Psalm 62 we're going to say in our call to worship this week. I want you to listen for it, watch for it. From Psalm 62. We can't appreciate these words if we're not able to imagine in this life someday losing everything. It's at that point we can truly say with the psalmist, "For God alone my soul waits in silence, for my hope is from him. God alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be shaken." Memorize those verses. And next time you find yourself lying in bed, not able to sleep, thinking about stuff, think about those words. They might be priceless to you. And your relationship with God might be much more valuable to you as well. So God bless you, my friends. Look forward to seeing you Sunday.